Notice anything different? Looking good, Daddy. Thank you, baby. All right. It's Wednesday. We got some parts. Bought a RCD gear drive unit through alkydigger.com. They had like the best price on it. Pretty confusing, and I'm quickly learning everything with this thing is confusing. The instructions are good about giving you torque specs and a couple of procedures as far as doing shimming and setting in-play adjustment. Since it's a big block, you got to hold the cam in there with a roller. And I got a cam sync front cover and an optional flat cover just in case I don't want to do the cam sync right now. I use the MSD cam sync right this moment in the back, and it's okay. It works all right. I've got a couple extras because we end up losing like bearings in them or like thrust washers. Rarely does a sensor die in them. I have had one sensor die, but I'm going to see if that sensor thread actually matches the front of the cover, which I don't think it does, because I don't know what thread that is because there's no instructions. That kind of sucks. I just called Mashmeyer, our engine guy, and he's got the heads done. So I sent Brandon, one of my guys, is running over there right now to go grab the heads, and I'm going to attempt to start putting the sucker together. And I asked Mash, I was like, hey, this RCD, how do I set cam timing with it? He's like, well, you're gonna make a list of what does and doesn't work. I said, oh boy. And there are 11 bolts, and there's 11 possibilities of, if we keep near the same cam position, of what it's going to be as far as angles go. So I'm going to have to bust out our trigger wheel, which I haven't used in a very, very, very long time. And I got a little dot right there, lined up at number 1. And I'm going to start stabbing this thing in and start seeing where it starts moving the camshaft and try a degree cam. Haven't done it in quite a while. Haven't needed to. But first, I gotta get the old timing chain gear off, which its teeth got pretty boogered up when the cam bolts let go. Looks pretty nice in there. Camshaft is ready to accept its next drive. Still gotta get the gasket off the motor. So I got a few things to do. But I'm gonna dig into it, get rolling with it. See if we can get this, at least get, my goal tonight is at least get the cam cover on. Yeah, goal tonight is at least get the cam cover on. And get the front of it sealed back up. So we're gonna try to do that with the heads off. Normally you would have the rocker on and put a gauge on that part, but I'm going to try doing it this way. Just kind of work backwards. Here we go. I wanted to put in the video this time. We had a fan who makes these clear coated rear covers for the Pontiacs. Travis. And he gave me some rope lights to put in here to illuminate this guy, because this is actually all cleared out. So I was doing some testing with some LED flame bulbs and some placements. I wish they kind of pulsed a little bit slower, so I was going to try some resistors here. But I thought that was pretty neat. So I'm going to get this wired up and get these little light bulbs mounted. Which there's the bulbs. Have a little accent lighting on the back of the car. That'd be pretty cool. Okay, back to it. Well, if that was boring, I'm sorry. I got confused trying to degree this motor, and I was on the wrong lifter. I was on the exhaust lifter for most of that. But, so like I get the intake center line set on the degree, and then I would go and roll it around and look at the different events, and it was off by a lot. And then I checked the lift on the lobe, and it was a lot closer to the advertised exhaust lobe lift. I was like, I wonder. Go to the intake side. But it looks like the intake's actually shorter than, it's because it's supposed to be 470 lift at the cam lobe, and only got 462. But when I get the intake center line within like 2 degrees, and then I roll back through the rest of the cam events, the opening and closing of the intake valve was within 1 degree. And then apparently this cam lobe has a pretty wide top to it. So it's kind of hard to get the intake center line nailed down. This cam set's throwing me for a loop. I did find out that every tooth, let's go back to my notes here. So like number 2, so when I was on number 2 tooth, every time I move the gear a tooth forward or backwards, we'd move about 5 degrees. So I was kind of figuring out how to get it in the ballpark. Went back with number 1, lined up with the dowel, and I come out dead on with my intake open, intake close. And then when I go back to intake center line, it's really close. It's pretty well there. Didn't get as far as I wanted to tonight. I was hoping to get this done, bolt together, and move on to the heads. But I spent a few hours trying to get the balancer on. Come to find out, the lower cam or lower crank gear is actually thicker by about 2/100 of an inch, so just under 1/4 of an inch. So I had to machine down the balancer hub in order to get the balancer to go back in where it was before, because the Pro Charger spacers, when you buy your kit, these guys are sent out about a 1/4 inch oversized for what I measured for my car. And then you have to get them milled down in order to match. Because you have this spacer, this one here, and then this one here. So if I didn't get the balancer sucked back in, then our drive hub here would have been chewing into the back seal on the gear reduction box for the speeding up of the blower. So there's either get new spacers and remachine the Pro Charger spacers and move the cold side, or cut the balancer down. So I cut the balancer down. Didn't take very long. Took longer to figure that out than it did to actually cut it. So kicking my butt. But that's the issue with new parts sometimes, is you hit some difficulties you just didn't plan for, and luckily it's Wednesday. So if we do go racing this weekend, then at least I still have tomorrow to get the car and the motor together, and then make my final decision on if we're going to travel or not. The rain in the forecast and then the drive time where we're wanting to go to Montgomery is just makes it to where if I didn't have work Monday, wouldn't be a big deal. But I've got appointments already set for Monday morning and early afternoon, so we gotta be back in time, and preferably not as a zombie with no sleep. I think that is it for this evening. Yep, that is it. It's about midnight. I'm gonna call it good right there. Camshaft's in. I was getting really nervous. Ugh. I gotta take it all apart and Loctite everything. But now we've got that all sorted out. Yeah, good progress either way.